I watched it twice in 48 hours.
That doesn't surprise me.
Oh my god.
I almost wanted it to be worse. I was like, I wish this was a little bit worse.
Yeah,
I will tell you, I got a little too hammered last night for the second viewing, and that's where the majority of my notes come from, so I apologize in advance.
Well, we can do a fun game called Chris Interprets His Own Notes.
Yes. And welcome back to the Trashwatch podcast. It's kind of a reboot. This is episode 2 from season 2. We're watching one of my favorite movies today, Critters. I love it so much.
I'm Brian, and much like Parks and Rec, start with season 2 and forget season 1 ever happened.
And I'm Brandon. I'm an originalist, so I will only talk about season 1. It's what the founders intended.
That's right.
I mean, it did give us Suburban Commando, so season 1 isn't all
And
bad.
speaking of which, this movie could use some Ramsey. If Shepard Ramsey were in this film, the critters would have been caught in minute 2.
Minute 2, man. This movie did need some professional wrestlers. And of course, I'm Chris, and I am the one who chose the movie this week. And I am very, very excited about this. Brian and I were kind of talking before recording a little bit, so I'm just going to lay it out there. I know that we all probably have the same note at some point here, but yes, this is just pre-Lilo and Stitch, before Lilo and Stitch.
I can get behind that. I mean, Ohana doesn't mean family in this movie, though. I need more family themes.
Oh, the 35 minutes of family establishment doesn't do it for you.
We'll dive into this. We'll dive into this family establishment. It's like someone read like the first half of a How to Write a Screenplay book and then like got it and then threw it away.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so Critters is from the grand year of 1986. So this is actually from the year that I was born. A quick 30-second rundown of the movie is the critters. The titular critters escape from an asteroid prison planet, come to Earth, start eating people. Bounty hunters come to get rid of them, and that's the movie. And It's a fucking blast. Yeah.
I'll say I'm at least happy to finally have watched this film because just to age myself and this podcast, I remember I would see this box art at the video store all the time, like the VHS box sitting there. It's a very striking cover of the critters, and I never watched it though, but every time you go to the store, you go through every shelf, look over, so I was very familiar with the VHS box of Critters. This is my first time actually watching the film.
I will say this, so the thing about this movie is it is really not the best of the quintology. It's a good launching off point, but Critters 2 is so much better. And Critters 3, well, we'll get to it, but it has a surprise in it that still to this day kind of blows my mind. So quick rundown here. We're going to introduce you to our cast of characters. We have Terrence Mann, who's playing Johnny Steele. Trust me, you'll hear his name quite a bit throughout this. Don Keith Opper is our lovable town drunk, Charlie. Dee Wallace is the family's mom, Helen. Fun fact about Dee Wallace, she was also the mom in E.T., the extraterrestrial.
One of many things this movie shares with E.T.
Yes, and she is not Mother of the Year in that movie either. We get Scott Grimes, who plays young Brad. Lynn Shane, who is, if you're a horror fan, she's in damn near everything that has been enjoyable in the horror genre for the last, 40 years at this point. Then Nadine Vandervelde as April, Ethan Phillips as Jeff, the father, and then we have two of my favorites in this film, a young, bemulleted Billy Zane, and M. Emmett Walsh.
M. Emmett Walsh is so good. He's that guy. If anyone doesn't know who he is, you know who he is.
You know who he is.
He's in 1,000 things. My favorite's probably the Jerk. He is the one who hates these cans in the Jerk.
Yes.
He's in Blade Runner. He's in 1,000 things. He is that guy. He's a total that guy.
Well, I love him as the sheriff in this movie because he is just not. He does not give a shit that he is in this movie, but it's so charming.
Yeah, he's giving me exactly what I need out of this part. Like he does more to establish himself as a character than the opening 35 minutes does for this family.
Oh my god!
Like I get more about this guy just watching him act in one scene than I would with 1,000 pages of script for every other character.
Yes. All right, so let's jump into it. This movie starts off the bat cold open. There's a prison asteroid where the critters are, as they're known by the bounty hunters and the prison wardens, as the Krites.
Which I have some very upsetting news for you later, listeners. I'm gonna wait till we get there in my notes in the film. There's a upsetting reveal to me later. Like, okay, they're called the Krites. I got it.
Right. You find out that there was 10 of them, but they're eating everything on the ship. So they killed 2 of them. So now there's only 8. So the bar has been kind of set of how many Krites are going to have to die in this film.
However, you forgot that you neglected to mention one of my favorite lines and how they know the number of Krites, and that is they received an advanced notice cube. Like of all the sci-fi jargon nonsense, I was so happy when they, like, as soon as I said that, I was like, oh shit, Chris may have found the next Suburban Commando.
Right.
Like, advanced notice cube, sign me up.
Your advance notice has been turned into a cube. You have 30 minutes to move your cube.
Hello, intergalactic space parcel service. My tracking number says I got my cube, but it was clearly taken off of my spaceport. What do I need to do to get my space cube back?
We'll send in a couple of bounty hunters. They'll track them down.
Oh, okay, great.
Will the bounty hunters have weird Mysterio heads? Yes, they will. Don't worry.
Oh, you mean the crash test dummies?
Well, here's the thing. When they first appeared in silhouette, it was like a hazy circle. I was like, oh, they have like green fish bowls. They're Mysterios. And then they stepped forward and they were Green Man from Always Sunny. I was like, oh, okay. That's a choice.
Oh. And they spend so much money of their budget melting the one guy's face to turn him into Terrence Mann.
That sequence was amazing, though. We'll get to it, but I loved that sequence. I was like, holy shit, this might be a legitimately great movie.
Right.
The rest of the film does not necessarily live up to that moment, but yeah.
Not at all. So the Krites escape. We find out that they're on a ship that has plenty of gas to get them basically across the universe back and forth, but really they're going to start looking for a place to feed. The closest place to feed, of course, is Terra. It is Earth 1, where we're going to meet our family here. But before we do that, I had a lot of feelings about the human floating thumb that was trying to give directions to the bounty hunters. He is so bizarre looking, this thing.
Oh yeah, well, when I saw it, it actually harkened to a lot of like other Alien designs. I feel like that it hit this sort of like classic archetype of the like half-sized person. I feel like I've seen a lot of different
right
genre,
and they have too much weight on their lower half, so they have to float everywhere.
Yes.
This movie was directed by Stephen Herrick, who went on to direct Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, like right after this.
See, that all makes sense now.
And it's like watching, like in that first scene in the space station, I definitely felt that. I was like, yeah, this feels kind of Bill and Ted-ish, just like aesthetically.
A quick note about this, we just recapped this sort of opening. Just so you know, the film does this quicker than we did.
Yes.
At this point, I actually wrote down, I was like, damn, that is an efficient setup. Like, you think they would show like the prison break or the Krites getting out? Like he's like, all right, be careful with them. Oh no, they're out. Get the bounty hunters. Hey, off you go. And I was like, holy shit.
Well, yeah, because we got to spend 40 minutes meeting the family.
Little did I know when I wrote down, hey, this is a really efficient setup, that the film does in fact not know how to do an efficient setup at all.
So we cut from space to the little house on the prairie. Just all these just B-roll of farm equipment and just like this rustic, gentle music playing.
Before we get to that, so I bought this movie because picking this movie, I loved it so much as a kid that I realized I didn't have it on DVD, so I bought the HD, the version of it on Amazon. If I make a suggestion, don't buy the HD version on Amazon, because everything that looked great in the 80s and early 90s looks garbage when it's high def.
You don't say.
Oh, it was so bad. The spaceship flying away from the asteroid, I swore I saw the strings. So just just avoid that. Get the SD version if you're going to watch it.
I don't understand. There weren't any strings on the spaceship.
H. Bomber Guy actually did a whole video about that, about Scanline, and about how watching things on VHS that were old, like watch them in old definition is helpful. Because specifically, he was talking about like Terminator 2
It's like
and
that
how
and
the effects, like
Alien.
Terminator 2, you're like, holy shit, yeah, an Alien. But then when you watch it in HD, you're like, oh, I can see the seams of everything, and all the mystery of this is gone, and no.
So before we land on Earth and we meet the family, we're introduced to one of our bounty hunters watching a clips show version of Earth.
They're just watching Kuyanisqatsi. It's
Yeah, and they stop on Johnny Steele's "Power of the Night," the music video.
Yeah, I'd love any movie that has like a learning through a quick montage. I'm here for it. X-Men Apocalypse, yeah, give it to me. Like any film that does this like shorthand, here's a bunch of images, here's some video clips. I know about culture now.
Yep, and you're sitting here going like, oh, there's Hitler, there's the bad part of Earth. Okay, here we go. And now we have Terrence Mann. And so if you don't know, Terrence Mann is a Broadway legend. He's been in damn near everything.
Yeah, he was the original Rum Tum Tugger. He's the original Javert on Broadway. He wasn't the West End for either of those. I don't think. He's the original Beast on Broadway in Beauty and the Beast.
He was one of the original Frankenfurters too in Rocky Horror when it came to the States.
That I did not know.
Yeah,
he's exactly. Well, it's funny because now I think of him as like the stately old gentleman of the stage, and then here he's like, I'm the rock and sex god. I was like, oh, this is 1,000 years ago now, so that makes sense. People were younger in the past.
Right. So one of the bounty hunters sees Johnny Steele singing "Power of the Night," which we found out posthumously watching this movie. Terrence Mann helped write this song and is definitely singing this song in the movie.
Yeah, so as Brian said, you don't hire Terrence Mann and then not have him sing. So that's a smart business. Oh, and audience, if you're worried that you won't get to hear "Power of the Night" 6 times, I have good news for you. But yeah, the music video of "Power of the Night" is intercut with the best effects in the film. That even watching, because I believe the one I was watching was 720p. So yeah, some of the scenes were showing. Even in high definition, it looked great. Like it was a well thought out. Like the director or special effects supervisor, whoever was responsible for it, like really thought this out. It's this great horrifying like 80s moment of the green flesh melting off into goop and then forming a skull and then musculature going over it. And it's so good.
It's kind of like a reverse Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
It looks great.
A big part of why this movie, the effects do look really great, is because the head of the team who made the titular critters and did all the special effects for the film are the Chiodo brothers, who also did Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, okay.
They did Night of the Little Dead, which is a really fun 2011 like comedy-ish zombie feature, and they did a movie in 1993 called Freaked. But they were top of their game in this sci-fi puppet realm and the special effects. So like, I'm 100% on board. And then of course, as we have mentioned a couple times, they land on Earth, and then we meet the family.
We spent a lot of time with this family, like setting up the dynamics and setting up like little moments that you're like, oh, okay. In a normal film, like, okay, this is going to pay off later. Like this, we're going to see like a parallel to this moment, like with them fighting the critters. But honestly, not a lot of that happens.
The only thing that happens is we find out that the sister is a little bit of a horn dog.
A little bit.
It's so refreshing that like she's as horny as 2004. She is full on horny, ready to go. And the boyfriend's was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe we should hang out and watch your dad go bowling.
Yeah, Billy Zane's like, I don't know about this, April.
It was so good for like an 80s comedy. Like, oh, shit, yeah. The like teenage girl is the one who's like hot to trot. And this guy's like, I don't know. Maybe not. Oh, yeah. A couple earlier moments, though, we're jumping just some things of the family that I loved. So they tried to do the moment of like setting up the fighting brother and sister. And so she's like, oh, he's hogging the bathroom. You need to get out of there. I need to get in there. But she's walking in carrying her stack of school books. So she was about to take like 5 textbooks into the bathroom with her. Well, like, what did that family have for dinner last night that she's gonna like, well, I'll need to go through all 5 of these textbooks?
I am really glad you brought that up because there is something about these movies that piss me off. It is such a pet peeve of mine. It is when the mom or whoever is making breakfast makes a giant fucking spread and no one eats a goddamn thing and then just leaves. That pisses. I can't deal with it.
It would piss me off, but it reminds me of an episode of Boy Meets World, which I love dearly from my childhood. Because there's an episode where like the running B plot is the mom keeps making breakfast, and then I think it is the like cafeteria worker dies, and so Corey realizes like, oh, people don't really show appreciation for the people who prepare them food. So then at the end of the episode, he sits down and thanks her, and they have a breakfast together. It's a very sweet moment on that show.
Damn it, Brandon. Make me
That's
sad.
me, the heart of the podcast. We're in real trouble. We're in a bad way if I'm the heart of the podcast.
Oh my god. So Brad is in the bathroom locked up. He's doing the classic running the hot water tap to try to with the thermometer to raise his temperature so he doesn't have to take his geometry test that day.
He's smart on that end. He's not so smart on the execution of the rest of the plan, which is you don't go and sit at the... He just goes and sits at the table, thermometer in his mouth, and just like basically he's like sitting there waiting for someone to be like, hey, Brad, why have you got that thermometer in your mouth? He's like, this old thing. Funny story.
The question I had was, when the mom reads the thermometer, she says 106, and that he ran that under the hot water tap like 5 minutes ago. So how fucking hot is that water in that house?
I mean, as someone who unhealthily likes to take scalding hot showers, like I have my water heater turned up enough that like I might be able to get a thermometer up to 106. Like if I had it on full hot.
Also, then putting that in your mouth.
Oh yeah, that's the downside. Yeah, this kid's not smart.
So we're introduced to the family one by one. The mom yells downstairs, but it looks like she's yelling at the cabinet for the dad. He's clearly working on something in the basement, but he has a mason jar with a viscous liquid that he brings up to the table and he pours coffee into. And then did anyone else notice like the 8 tablespoons of honey he shoves into that?
Well, I assumed it was all this like, okay, all this stuff's going to be set up for later. Like his weird viscous fluid is going to be like, no, don't worry.
Nope.
Once again, you don't have to worry about following any of the establishment stuff because none of it comes back. Like they're both perfectly serviceable halves of films. Like if there had been a second half that like followed all this stuff, it'd be a perfectly fine like opening half hour.
It's true.
And if it was just the back half of the monsters, it'd be great, but they'd really just have no connection to each other in any way.
A lot of this is just observational stuff, but he acts like he's hugging the wife, but really he's just using like wiping his hands on her apron from behind, which I
he's
thought
also
was
like
fucking
kissing her
rude.
neck. Like he's going full horn dog in front of his children. Like that's how the daughter learned it. She learned it from watching him.
I learned it from watching you.
Well, the wife seems like, you better learn to keep up. It's like, oh, another boy's in love with her? She's like, yeah, you got to keep up. Let's go fuck.
I noticed this when she's on the phone. Like you can kind of hear in the background and with subtitles on, it tells you that, you know, she's talking to Steve and she's like, oh, happy birthday. And a little bit, and she's like, yo, what'd you get? And a little bit like, don't make me guess. It's like, why is Steve making her guess what he got for his birthday?
I was never a world-class flirter, but this seems like a weird move on my part. On his part. Like, granted, I was not as cool as Billy Zane with vanity license plate in high school. But I don't remember making a lot of like calls to girls' houses at like 7 a.m. before school starts.
Well, no, because like none of us are even A, awake enough to be flirtatious that early in the morning, or B, like if I don't know how it was in your guys' house, but in our house, we didn't have like free telephone until after 7 o'clock at night. So if you called between, you know, when you got up in the morning until 7 p.m., it better be a goddamn emergency because that shit was expensive.
My excuse is that I do not look like Billy Zane.
Here's the thing, okay? Here's how I call bullshit though. Like at one point in my, I think it was my sophomore year, is before I had my driver's license, I was dating an older girl, and she would drive and pick me up for school in the mornings. And this is a brag. I have very few romantic flexes, so this is one. That back when I was a sophomore, I got a ride from an older lady that I was dating.
Brandon Zane over here.
Brandon, yes.
You lost the mullet with the ponytail.
Even with the fact where I was waiting for her to get to school every morning, I don't remember ever calling her in the morning. And Billy Zane is dropping and then making her play a guessing game about his birthday present. What if he's gay and he like this is just a beard situation? He's like, well, I'm supposed to flirt with girls.
You know what? I had that thought too.
Mom, how do I get the what do I say to girls? Just ask her about herself. Guess what I got for my birthday?
No, it's sweating profusely.
That'll remind her it's your birthday, which means she'll give you a gift later.
Yeah, Brandon, that's what we don't see on the other end of the line is just Billy Zane sweating like Jordan Peele in that Key and Peele sketch.
Well, that's why they only say like 4 lines over the course of about 7 minutes on the phone. Because she's like, it's my birthday. Yeah, happy birthday. Oh, do you want to guess what I got for my birthday?
So, that scene ends, relatively quickly, and then we move on to the police station where we are introduced to a few more characters here. Lin Shaye is playing one of the secretary,
Sal.
And then we get M. Emmett Walsh, of course. He comes in and just has that slow southern drawl, and it's just absolutely marvelous and wonderful and everything that this movie needs to have.
So when we cut to this scene, Sal is reading the newspaper, or reading the National Inquisitor.
Oh, yes.
I paused to write these headlines down because...
Oh, thank God.
God bless you, because I thought about it. I was like, I was already running late.
Yes.
So the big banner headline is, big bold letters, Mr. Spock is the father of my baby. And then some of the other headlines include Liz saved from drowning by hog. So I don't know who Liz is, maybe Liz Taylor, something. Next one, robot waiter runs amok in restaurant.
It's predicting the future, Amazon.
Finally, on the right side, another subheadline, mother raffles baby to pay for sex change.
For her or for the baby?
Oh, it's the gift of the Magi. I sold off my baby to afford the sex change for my baby.
Oh no, I sold off my sex change to afford a baby.
I do remember, because it's the giant banner headline, the Mr. Spock is the father of my baby one. And I missed probably a solid minute of dialogue in the scene, because I was wondering, like, okay, is this like a celebrity tabloid rag where they're talking about Leonard Nimoy? Or are they using Mr. Spock as a shorthand for aliens? And it's like, the National Enquirer. And I was just like thinking, like, it could be either one. Both are equally likely for this small town dispatcher to be reading.
Well, absolutely. It could be either one, because we hear about John Travolta used to be a waitress in Fort Myers, which is still a possibility as far as I'm concerned.
Jim, we have to stop by Earth. I need to pay my alimony.
I hope she didn't sell the baby again.
Oh, no.
It's the same person as in those 2 articles. Wait, what if Liz is the mother of the baby and all of these articles are about her?
That's a brand saturation if an entire National Enquirer is all about one woman.
All right, so at this point, we are introduced to our lovable town drunk, Charlie McFadden, played by Don Keith Opper, or also known as just Don Opper. Don Opper's had a pretty massive career, too. He comes back in Critters 2 and Critters 4 as the same character as Charlie, by the way. So Charlie is, like I was mentioning before, he's the lovable town drunk. We find out here that he used to be the star pitcher of the high school baseball team, probably about 20 years prior to this. But he got some fillings in his teeth, and he's starting to pick up radio signals, and it drove him crazy. And I guess the only way to keep the voices at bay is through whiskey, beer, and whatever liquor is handed to him.
Yeah, they kind of play him. They don't know what they want. Like they sometimes it looks like he's a guy on the spectrum. Sometimes it looks like he's just a drunk.
But I had to write this down too. So I think it's really interesting that Sal she kind of looks like Lucille Ball in this first shot in the sheriff's department. But it's an interesting thing because I don't know if you know this, but Lucille Ball used to actually pick up radio signals in her fillings, and it did almost drive her crazy back in the early 50s.
Huh, I did not know that.
So M. Emmett Walsh has a moment here where they're talking about Charlie being asleep in the back cell. He's sleeping it off. And he says this town is a zoo. And according to what I've seen in this movie so far, one drunk does not a zoo make. Because there's been nothing weird about this town at all.
Well, the problem is you don't see how raucous the bowling tournament would have gotten if we got to see it. Like the annual bowling tournament always turns into a riot that burns the city to the ground.
Yeah, Philadelphia has nothing on this small town.
If anything, the critters saved the town.
I was kind of hoping for a oh god, what was that terrible puppet movie we watched where the animals turn into aliens?
Oh, Pet Shop.
Pet Shop.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for a weird Pet Shop thing where everybody in this town is part of the mob.
Or Mr. Zim and Mrs. Zim.
Yes.
Better movie if the bounty hunters pick up Pet Shop and then they transform into Mr. and Mrs. Zim.
Yep. See, I told you, season 1 is what the founders intended.
They look at each other in love. Yeah, we should just live here, man. I don't know, open a pet store. Why not?
Well, when the music video first started, I was like, okay, the other one's going to turn to like the female backup singer or the female drummer, and we're going to have like a badass lady bounty hunter. No.
Yes. Oh, well, Brandon, let me fill you in, buddy, because Critters 2, spoiler alert, Charlie ends up leaving the planet with the bounty hunters, and he becomes a bounty hunter himself at the end of this movie. Their sequel, Critters 2, takes place 2 years after this film, and Charlie comes back to help decimate the eggs that are left behind, but they couldn't get Terrence Mann back for this feature, so they just turned him into a bodacious babe. So then we cut back to the farm where we find out that Charlie is working for the dad. My next note here is I want this beer can lighter.
Oh, you mean Brad the pyromaniac?
Who has dynamite, apparently.
Later we see him just straight up building bombs in his room.
That is the one thing that comes back. I was like, okay, this is like Chekhov's dynamite has to come back. And don't worry, it does. Like, that's the one thing that they actually know, like, okay, you set something up in Act 1 for it to pay off later in the film. We got it.
Well, Brad is he's just the everyman of 80s kids movies, you know. In his room, he's got his Johnny Steele poster. He's got his Johnny Steele single of Power of the Night, the Anarchist Cookbook, and some dynamite. What else do you need, man?
And he's got this wonderful manifesto speaking out against recycling.
He keeps typewriting all these like charming handwritten letters to different politicians. Well, our little boy, he's so political. He says he wants to move to a cabin in the woods. It's so charming.
He keeps sending me this listing for a cabin on this place called Ruby Ridge. Have you heard of this? I don't know.
What's this dry white powder he keeps sending in the mail? Is this flour or do you want me to bake something? I don't know. That little scamp.
Brad, that's a sick hoodie you've got there.
That goes well with your aviators. It's a whole look you got going.
I never thought he was religious, but he moved to Texas and he just became a really good guy.
A lot of people want to live on his compound. I don't know.
Telling you.
This kid is on fire.
That's the sequel we deserve. That's the spinoff we deserve.
We're introduced to Chewy the cat here, which is wonderful.
We do also finally get the arrival of Billy Zane now that we're back on the farm.
And his glorious mullet.
And they do my favorite kind of character development, showing you a vanity license plate on the vehicle. And then we get the classic, city slicker versus country bumpkin moment where the dad's like, you can't haul much hay in there, as if the dad's never seen a car before.
Right, and I was kind of hoping he'd be like, oh, because he's fixing up a truck anyway. I figured they'd maybe have like some awkward car talk, and Billy Zane would be like, yeah, if you put the keys in it goes.
Yeah, like he could be a gearhead, and that's his way into the dad. But instead, he's like very respectful, nervous, and like doesn't want to upset the dad. Now,
I will say this: Charlie is one of my favorite characters in this entire franchise, but I'm going to throw him under the bus here really quickly because I feel like Charlie knew exactly what he was aiming at when he shot off that slingshot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I still can't believe I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm watching it, and normally I get tired of, like, seeing what's about to happen in a film. But this time I was upset at the obvious bait and switch. I was like, oh, he's going to, like, break a window on the nice new car. Like, a nice new car drove up. The shot shows the can, and, like, right behind it is the windshield of the car, the side windshield. I'm like, okay, he's going to bust it open. It's going to be a big fight.
We're going to find out Billy Zane is kind of a jerk because he's super protective of his car. And then when he dies later, it would be kind of feeling like karmic.
No, Billy Zane is actually quite a good guy in this movie. And one of only 2 deaths in this movie, too.
Yeah, shockingly low number of deaths. I was like, oh, a lot of people are going to die in this thing. No, it's a very tame film that way.
So again, because Brad and Charlie are best of friends, Brad takes the fall for Charlie hitting his sister in the ass with a rock.
At that time, I actually wrote down like, oh, here's our save the cat moment. Turns out I was not correct. And that later there is a literal save the cat moment.
Which that cat did not want to be picked up at all in that shot. That was not acting. The cat legitimately freaked the fuck out. And then, Brad takes the fall. We find out that he's not going to have dinner tonight. He goes upstairs to his room and cue the music because he throws in a cassette tape and Power of the Night plays yet again.
Yeah, baby.
Woo-hoo!
So meanwhile, April and Billy Zane, April's like, we gotta go right now. And she's like, what are you talking about, babe?
You said we go for a try. Yeah, she grabbing his leg and he like reacts under the table. It is 100% reverse. It's so good. I was so happy with this sequence. I was like, yes.
Did anybody else notice, or was it just me, that when they're going around the table and you see everybody's food, that Brad's dad is eating 2 corn on the cobs because Brad is not getting dinner tonight? He's like, fuck that kid. This is my corn now.
Hey, man, I'm just saying, corn is surprisingly low calorie, so more power to him. Good for you, buddy. Eat that corn. Get that veggie.
Oh, and then we get this, which is one of my favorite lines in this entire film. So Billy Zane and April leave, and they head out to go do the business. The dad looks at Dee, the mom, and says, have you ever talked to her about, the way things are? And the mom's response is, yeah, years ago. And the dad's response is, what, fucking years?
Well, also, yeah, this film, like, it's accurate that, like, these women are very, like, sexually informed and awakened, and the men are just helpless idiots.
Yes.
It's very true to life.
Isn't it in Critters 2 or 3 where a grown-up Brad calls his girlfriend and is like, hey, guess what I got for my birthday?
So, yeah, Billy Zane and April end up in the barn, and he makes a comment about being allergic, but it really feels like he's saying it not about the hay, but saying it to April, like, oh yeah, I'm allergic to whatever it is you think we're about to do. So, while all that's happening, the dad goes upstairs to talk to Brad about, why do you hate your sister so much? Why do you two always fight? And I'm like, well, they're brother sister. That's just the way things are. He did say, thank your mama for fixing you a plate. But he has this look on his face like, yeah, I ate your fucking corn, so you're not getting that.
Yeah, I imagine the scene we didn't see is the dad going like, well, I guess I'll eat. She's like, no, we need to feed our son. That's child abuse. And he's like, fuck that kid.
But he ends up putting his plate on the floor for Chewie to eat it, and all I thought was that bit from The Simpsons where Marge Simpson is like, what's wrong with my Sundays? Why does nobody want to eat my ice cream? Because nobody eats breakfast in this house, and he clearly didn't have dinner, and he's like, fuck this, the cat'll eat it. What is happening?
This movie needed a scene where Brad's running and Brad just doubles over from hunger pangs.
Yes.
He's like, I would go get help, but I'm starving. I didn't eat breakfast or dinner, and we jumped over 12 hours of the day.
When Brad's running from the monsters, he's like in the kitchen, he's looking over at the stairs, and he's looking over at just like a Hershey bar on the counter. He's just like, what do I do?
So yeah, the dad leaves to get ready for his bowling tournament, and then Brad sees that the sister and Billy Zane are going to the barn. I guess he's going to spy on them is the plan.
He picks up a firecracker. He is going to blow this barn up.
Well, also, yeah, I think he's going to because at first I was like, oh, he's sneaking over to get his slingshot, but then he doesn't. So much of this, I was like, okay, I see you're trying to set stuff up, and then just abandon entire threads, minutes of film wasted on things that don't come back.
We get the Critters UFO flying overhead, and did anybody else write down the line "the Earth moved already"?
Oh yeah, when April and Billy Zane are making out, she's like, "The Earth moved already."
I mean, you know that thing, how guys are always complaining that girls finish too quickly in bed. That comment happens to you too, guys, right? Girls just finish like that, and drop of a hat. Guys are just too good at pleasing women. It happens all the time.
It really plays to the Billy Zane inexperience angle, like that he doesn't know how any of this works.
It's true. Also, next time I'm hooking up with someone, I hope an earthquake helps me fit. Like, can I get a little earthquake, hit the world to shake? That'll help things. that'll help me seem a lot better than I am. So
Brandon, just text one of us. We'll come over and we'll just start kicking the side of your house for you. Okay?
True friends will kick each other's houses.
The Earth moved already.
Yeah, baby, that's just how I roll.
Brandon, who's kicking your house?
That's just the sex, the good sexing. That's what that is. You two just loudly talking. You think that's enough? Should we kick some more? Yeah, let's kick some more.
So speaking of romantic losers, the next thing we cut to is Officer Jeff.
Oh, poor Jeff.
Who, poor guy. Yeah, he calls into the police station to talk to Sal, and he's like, "Hey, Sal, what'd you get for your birthday, or what I get for my birthday?"
And she's like, "Stop it! I'm too horny." No, but in all seriousness, though, I'm like, oh, this guy is not okay. He's creating a hostile work environment because, like, from the tone of the conversation, like, he does this every day.
Oh, well, it gets worse. This guy gets way worse momentarily because one of the critters rolls out in front of his car and he pulls over. He gets out of the car and he's like,
"Oh, he doesn't pull over, sir. He crashes into a fucking ditch."
And so he gets out of the car and he's like, here, Poochie. And he gets out his club like he is going to kill a dog.
Yes!
It's your kill the dog moment. It's the antithesis of the save the cat. It's the kill the dog. It's how you get a John Wick to fight you.
Also, before that, so when the critters are getting out of the UFO, I completely forgot about this, but we do get critters subtitles, which are so great.
Which I could use a lot more of. I could use a lot more critter subtitles.
And so they kill Jeff. They drag him under their car. The bounty hunters show up. And they see the car in the ditch, and then the second bounty hunter hasn't changed yet. I did write this down. I thought it was weird because they say something along the lines of the Johnny Steele bounty hunter looks at the one with the green face and goes, "Hey, you need to pick a face." And he says, "Well, I haven't found one that likes me yet."
No, I'm sorry. The line he says, I wrote down, is, "Nothing likes me."
Engrave that on my tombstone.
The problem is, once you get to the end of the film, you've heard him say like 10 lines, which are all his lines. You find out that like this second bounty hunter doesn't fully grasp English and speaks in these like broken, like turned around phrases.
Okay.
And so like what he's actually trying to say is like, I haven't found anything that I like. But what he says is nothing likes me, and it's the first line that this one says, and so it makes no fucking sense. Because I wrote that down. I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then, like, as you get on, like, you'll find later, like, his verb placement gets weird normally in his sentences. Like, oh, okay, that's a thing. But the problem is you had such a simple example for your first sentence. It seems like he's saying a nonsense sentence.
So Danny and the dad head out into the field to try to figure out what's going on. The dad says, "Oh, it smells like burning oil." Danny says it smells like cow crap. They see a mutilated cow.
And are surprisingly not concerned about it.
Not in the slightest.
I mean, this is a town that is clearly haunted by a bat boy, so they're used to seeing this sort of thing.
Yeah, it happens so often that it's on page 3 of the National Inquisitor.
Like, another dead cow. Got it. Yeah. I think I cut you off getting so distracted with the line. Did you talk about how the second bounty hunter takes its first form?
Yeah, he looks at Jeff's corpse and he turns into Jeff's corpse.
Which is, first off, I wrote down, like, this, it kind of takes a turn a couple times. The second bounty hunter, first he becomes his corpse, so he has, like, a sick wound on his neck and everything, and he's, like, it's kind of off. And I was like, what a great idea. Like, this is a great decision, having one of the bounty hunters just take this thing that isn't a human, that isn't, like, a normal, healthy human, and not know any better. And, like, that's a great decision to make. Similarly, in that scene, I love the choice of having them drive the vehicle backwards in that they don't know how these things works. Like, okay, well, they happen to like hit it in reverse while they're trying to start it. And like, so that's just how this vehicle works.
Well, and Terrence Mann, he's looking at the shotgun that's locked into the
Yes.
car and he shoots it off. And I'm like, fuck, did Terrence Mann just kill himself in this movie?
That would be a terrible waste of your Terrence Mann.
I want to preface this. I think this movie has some pretty decent acting in it all the way around. It's not terribly acted, but when the dad gets attacked by a critter the first time, he is so nonplussed about being almost eaten alive that it took me aback. I'm like, what? He's not even really struggling. He's just like, oh, I got bit by something that I.
And his
don't
line
know.
reads are like a dad who acts like he doesn't need help, like carrying the groceries in. Like, oh, honey, go help your dad. Like, I don't need help. I'm still strong. I can lift this up. You stay up there. I got it.
It's that Tom Segura bit about being so old that when you're like, oh, I'll take the trash out. Don't you fucking dare. Just sit there till you die.
The dad getting attacked, it's kind of on him because he goes down in the basement. They find that the power lines and the phone lines have been cut or chewed through. And he, hears some rustling on the shelf. He points a flashlight over and he sees like a furry critter, like noshing on something on the shelf. And he goes over, reaches out to touch it, which, thank God that's not like a possum or something, because
it's some white people on a safari bullshit. Like, oh, I'll just go get my picture closer with the lions. They won't touch me. I'm clearly safe.
That's not what's for hillbillies, guys. He definitely picks up possums daily. He's like, well, another possum in the field. I'm going to go chuck this one over the hill.
Maybe that's why Danny doesn't eat dinner, because Dad touched the food.
Oh, before the attack, the one that I had is, I think, the greatest moment of true horror in this film, which is we get a quick shot, it's like maybe 5 to 10 seconds, of the mother pushing food into an actively running garbage disposal with her hands. She has her hands down in the sink, jamming it like fingers into the opening of the garbage disposal, and I almost vomited everywhere.
I have some concerns for the wife anyway, because she does a lot of really unsafe things to herself this whole movie. Like, that was number one, and then later on, she's holding the shotgun basically under her chin, yelling at the gritters, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna kill herself in this movie. That's what's gonna happen. She snaps and loses her mind.
Chris, nobody's eating her breakfast. Got it?
The next attack is our poor sweet Billy Zane reaching for that
Billy Zane,
cassette player.
Your beautiful, beautiful hand.
You were too good for this world, Billy.
So this has been an ongoing struggle for me with this entire franchise, because some critters can take off like whole hands and fingers in one bite, but in the case of the dad, they're chomping on him for a good solid minute and a half throughout the whole film, and they're not really doing a whole ton of damage. They're just kind of like taking hunks.
Well, I think it's because the dad is eating that healthy country diet that keeps his body strong, and
It's
the city
all the
slicker
possum.
has nothing but bagels and cream cheese.
I want them to eat the dad, and one of the critters to have a subtitle like, oh, my arteries, all he does is drink black coffee with honey, and he just constantly eats possum.
The critters all just die from rabies.
Like, oh shit, the dad had rabies. He keeps picking up possums. Oh god.
Do you know how they treat that? They're gonna put a needle in your abdomen. Oh, just kill me. Oh my god. So we get Danny, the brother. He runs into the barn because he hears a sister screaming, which, by the way, I wrote this later, but I'm pretty sure this kid is the hero of this movie, because mom and dad do jack and shit for the sister, and he is constantly running to her aid.
Which is, it's funny because you think they would build up to it because they were fighting. There'd be some big moment where he has to decide to act selflessly, but like immediately the second shit goes bad, he helps her like dozens of times.
Well, it's like they try to do like a payoff moment later when he's leaving the room and she like does like the hey, see ya, and it's supposed to be like they've made up and they're friends now, but it's like
not so different, you and I.
Yeah.
But we get, and I'm sorry, this movie to me is just delightful. When he shoots a firework at the critter and he eats it and he expands and then falls over. It's just beautiful.
However, killing him with a firework is when I wrote down that critters truly are the graboids of space.
Yes.
I was like, I'm on board for any movie where you kill the monster by feeding it fireworks. All right, now we jump to the second scariest thing in this movie, which is this small rural town has a church that meets in the middle of a night.
Also, it's the horniest church in the town.
Yeah, but I'm like, this is a small church that's running at weird hours. This is definitely like a weird cult where they eat people, right? That's what we're gonna find out.
110%.
You never see like what church it is. Like there's probably like a statue of Payman up on the wall.
Yeah.
It's that weird Presbyterian synagogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the bounty hunters pull up on this church, and we get the establishing shots.
They drive up into this church.
Yes, but not before the preacher says, we're going to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and the entire front row of little old ladies are all like, oh, bless my stars, we're talking about anal sex.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a horny town.
I had to pause for a moment because I'm like, this is a lot to take in.
So the bounty hunters go into the church and they're like, we're looking for the Kreitz. And I wrote down, like, this was like a missed opportunity for, like, we're looking for Kreitz. Oh, do you mean Christ? Well,
yes.
You've come to the right place.
As soon as I was like, oh, this is going to be a funny sequence. Like, yeah, we can help you find Christ. Christ is here. He's inside all of us. And they, like, start ripping people open.
I had the note here that, fuck me, it's Johnny Steele.
Yeah, but then this is also in this scene, the second bounty hunter decides, like, okay, here's another form, and transforms from dead Jeff into the preacher of the church, which I was like, okay, this is an interesting thing. Like, this guy's gonna like keep making new choices and keep changing who they're picking. That's an interesting way instead of having the dead person, but they don't really stick to that enough.
That sounds like a setup, and we know how this movie feels about setups.
It's true. I did write down poor Jeff's actor, because when he took over Jeff, I was like, oh, okay, he dies early, but then he gets to still be in the movie. Not really. He gets like one more scene.
I was hoping for a bigger reaction from the church when he changes to be like, oh, pastor, oh no, you're like some sort of weird religious-y moment, like they would follow the bounty hunters through the town like a cult, you know?
Because also, I didn't see Jeff or the pastor enough to like really tell them apart immediately. I was like, I think he transformed, or maybe he just got better. Like,
so at this point, the organist passes out on the organ and makes some noise, and much like, you know, not to speak ill of law enforcement, but much like that large, loud noise happening, instead of looking at it, they just start shooting in this church.
yeah.
Well, we already found out in the beginning with the bounty hunters that they apparently wiped out nearly half of whatever previous planet they went to.
Oh yeah, that was a great line. Yeah, when they're like, yeah, when the guys to call back, like, oh shit, the opening exposition was too efficient. I forgot to mention a bunch of stuff you need to know.
We found 2 more pages of the screenplay.
It's like, oh shit, okay, it's okay. So this is what critters are. You guys are dangerous. They're going to Earth. Okay, now you're good.
I just like that they turn the phone call off on him in the middle of the conversation.
Oh yeah, that's how you know they're dangerous, like bounty hunters who play by their own rules.
So then we cut back to the farm at this point. The dad is inside, and I noted that this was like a wall of shotguns, and he picks the one shotgun that only takes 2 shells at a time, and is like, all right, I've got the gun now, but there are more guns and more people and more efficient guns than the gun you have.
Oh yeah, and based on how like country this person is coded as, there are definitely guns strapped to every surface of this house. Like, open up any drawer and there's going to be a gun in it. That's the kind of house they've designed here.
He makes his coffee in the morning with gunpowder and
just stirs it with a gun. It's like, oh, I put my 9mm here and stir my coffee, okay?
He turns the TV off with the gun.
Kids, come down for breakfast. I shot the bacon.
It's like, all right, this is a little cold here. Let me warm it up. There we go.
So they run out to the truck to try to escape, and the truck is torn apart from the inside. And they're all trying to figure out what these things are. And Danny says, oh, they're from space. But everyone in the family who has seen the critters, who have either been bitten by the critters, seen someone bitten by the critters, or seen someone murdered by the critters, are like, no, you're talking nonsense. Space creatures don't exist, Danny. Like, yes, they do. You've seen them.
To be fair, though, he does then offer up a viable alternative, which is like a government experiment gone wrong. In their defense, like, it'd be one thing if Charlie was saying this, but like, this kid doesn't have a whole lot of evidence to know they're from space at this point.
Yeah, and I guess like I guess I could see that maybe like they're kind of dismissing him because he does spend so much time with Charlie that maybe they're thinking, oh, you're.
They could be mole monsters. You don't know. They could be mutated.
They could be mini Mothmans.
Yeah.
In a rare instance of the movie almost paying off a setup, is April, the sister, has the keys to Billy Zane's car because she had taken them from him, like, to drive, like, behind the barn so they could then sneak into the barn, which, again, that was not a good plan, like, to begin with. But then she's like, oh, I have the keys to the car. And then they get to the car, and there's a critter in that car. And it's like, okay, well, glad we spent these 3 minutes to...
Yeah, but that setup line also reestablishes her horniness, because he's like, I don't want to go in this barn. She's like, well, you want your keys back, don't you? You gotta fuck me if you want these keys.
I put the keys in the coat. And then I put the coat on her!
But yeah, so there's another critter in that car.
Yeah, and they start getting chased by the tumbleweeds with teeth. But again, like, I know they look like tribbles, but they're still adorable and they're fucking great looking.
Like, when they're rolling, the film's at its best when there's, like, little rolling balls of spikes coming at them. Like that, I'm like, give me 4 hours of this. Yeah, sign me up. I'm here.
Then the mom has the gun for some reason, but she uses the gun every single way that a gun is not supposed to be used. Like, she's swinging the gun, she's poking them with the gun, she's not shooting anything at all.
No, the gun exclusively almost is used for, like, trick shots. Like, the kid ends up shooting down the fan. Like, no one's using a gun for its intended purpose. Like, they're playing a role-playing game and they want to get some extra dice. Like, okay, what if I do this crazy thing? Like, okay, you can roll an extra die, I guess. I don't know. This is insane.
I actually feel bad for the critter that gets killed by the ceiling fan. I'm like, what a shitty way to go.
Yeah, like, other guys get really cool deaths, and I was like, that killed the critter? That, like, a plastic... Like, I don't think that would kill me if it fell on my head.
Like, this is like Mario Brothers. I just gotta jump on him and it's over? All right. You know.
That's why I want a remake of Critters where it's like signs and they realize, like, jumping on them. That's the secret. Jump on these tiny little creatures.
Jump home, Charlie. Jump home. So this is where Critter subtitles pays off.
Yes.
Because you have the 3 critters rolling up to the house and they're looking at the door and one of them says they have weapons. The other one says, so what? Then the dad puts the gun outside the door, shoots the one that said, so what? It explodes. And the other critter goes, fuck.
Which is the critter saying fuck was my favorite thing in the universe.
It's the best.
That's the point when it's like, you're like, you know, this movie seems alright. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this movie. And that moment happens, you're like, oh, I love this movie.
That's why I said, like, the Two Houses film are films I could really enjoy. I just wish they were connected.
So we end up at the Bolorama, where yet again...
I didn't even made it to the bowling tournament!
Yes! Where, again, fuck me, it's Johnny Steele.
Yeah, Brendan, while he was watching the movie, texted us the screen grab of Milhouse going, when are they gonna get to the bowling tournament?
There were like 5 lines talking about this bowling tournament in the first half hour of the film. I was like, oh, okay, is that where the big showdown's gonna be with the critters? Is at the bowling alley? Because they're like balls and they're gonna like throw like, okay, I see where this is going, film. I respect you. Nope.
So we kind of talked about this earlier, but the bowling shirts in this movie are amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. So the dad's bowling team, it's like this teal blue with some pink undertones, but the back of it has like the No Ghost logo with a bowling pin in it. But the shirt that made me hop on Etsy is the glittered vinyl bowling shirt. Did you see these? The orange ones?
No.
Did you catch these guys?
Okay. No, I was distracted by the Ghostbusters one.
You need to go back and look at that scene because there's some people that are wearing like brightly bedazzled vinyl bowling shirts that are orange and blue. But the back of the orange ones, I didn't see the back of the blue ones, but the back of the orange ones say Honey Boy.
Huh.
I am sick of this viral marketing for these Shia LaBeouf movies.
Like, we get it. You're an artist. Calm down.
But it says Honey Boy, and I'm like, I need this shirt. So the bounty hunters do a fun little bit where they pick up a ball, they throw it to the end of the lane, explode all the pins.
Does that count as a strike, by the way?
No, because it has to roll.
Actually, I don't know what the rules are. Because no human is capable, well, no human without, like, destroying the lane would be capable of, like, chucking a bowling ball that distance and hitting the pins without touching the ground.
Nothing in the rule book says an alien can't go bowling.
Oh my god, I just thought of the greatest crossover in human history. Air Bud in a bowling movie against the critters in a bowling movie.
Do the critters just throw themselves down the lane, or are they just like, huh?
Yep. Also, the idea of the critters wearing the Honey Boy button-up bowling shirts.
Yeah, they keep ruining their shirts though because their spines like stick through them. They're like, ah,
yes.
my wife made these. Damn it.
One of the other bowlers picks up the critter and rolls it because he thinks it's the ball, and the other critters go, "Fuck!"
But yeah, so at the bowling alley, who should show up but our intrepid bounty hunters?
Yes. Oh, it's Johnny Steele.
I think now's about time to write down these bounty hunters suck.
In like 15 minutes, they will be amazing bounty hunters. But yeah, up until now, they suck.
So the bounty hunters get in a fight with the local hoodlums, and he turns into the one that turned into the pastor, then transforms into Charlie because I guess Charlie likes him, or vice versa. And they get into a fight, and yet again, there's more shooting. And it's at this point that Emmett Walsh, who I forgot was in this movie, gets finally called and woken up out of bed with the worst smoker's cough I have ever heard.
Oh yeah, no, I was like, oh, this sheriff is gonna die of lung cancer a week after this movie is set.
Yep. Also, did you all notice that he has a cutout of Dolly Parton from a newspaper clipping press pinned into his wall next to his lamp?
Oh, that's a tragic detail. Oh my god. Like I could make a Cannes Film Festival drama about the life of this small town sheriff who says goodnight to Dolly every night before rolling into his lonely bed.
Every night he asks the cutout what he got to guess what he got for his birthday.
Yes.
Yeah. He goes to bed at 6:30 every night because he can't stand to be awake any longer than that.
It's just Barney's short film from The Simpsons.
Yeah, but then
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
like 60 minutes into the film, I will still have critters attack though.
Well, yeah, you have to.
It's gonna be a heavy drama that then the critters show up in the third act.
It's like Joker. You just, you set it in this universe, then just have it running in the background. This story,
but it's got to be shot in that chronic tone of Nebraska.
Yes. Oh yeah, monochrome. Yeah.
New Line. If you're listening.
Oh, that's the other thing I forgot. I got so delighted at the beginning of this movie when the original New Line logo came up with the screen and the cell. It made me so happy, like, because it just reminded me of all the New Line films that I watched as a kid, like the Ninja Turtles films that started every way that way. Like, I could smell the VHS coming off of that opening logo. It made me so happy.
Yeah, I think the opening logo gets me the most is the Pegasus opening logo from
yes,
TriStar,
Columbia,
is it?
TriStar, yes.
Yeah.
Columbia TriStar, yeah.
Yeah, the old school one where it was like we would like gallop up, like yeah, I remember that old that and the old HBO like zooming through the letters like from the 90s when we get like preview weekends of HBO because we could not afford HBO. We were not that kind of family.
Same. My dad would find out that it was HBO weekend. He would go to Walmart and buy like the big 10-pack of recordable VHS, and nobody was allowed to watch anything that weekend except for HBO. And it was just like, as soon as the tape is done, you put in the next tape.
Oh yeah, we taped all that. I had a lot. That's why I remember it so well, because I had a lot of tapes with that HBO logo at the start of the movie. Okay, let's get back to some mayhem at the farm, because one of my favorite moments of subtlety is the critters are rampaging in the young boy's bedroom. And one of the critters comes across a stuffed like ET toy, and first she's like staring at him like, is he gonna fuck this ET? What's that? Because it keeps like bobbing on his face, like, is it trying to kiss ET?
When he looks at it, he goes, "Who are you?"
Yeah, it's just like, what are you? And then finally it bites ET's head off. Like, okay, this is subtle. The critters bite off ET's head. This is a subtle message.
Oh man. Is anybody else concerned that Brad tries to burn the house down with them inside of it?
Oh, well, they put it out immediately because I thought that's what was going to happen. Because he throws it down. It's like, okay, they're going to get trapped inside and there's going to be a fire and they'll need to escape on the roof like he climbed on the roof earlier. Don't worry, nothing comes back from the first half of the movie.
And then we get Toilet Critter.
Because then they immediately, the Ghoulies reference, right?
I love Ghoulies so much.
Speaking of VHS boxes, I saw 1,000 times at the video store that Ghoulie peeking out of the toilet.
Yep, Ghoulies when he's peeking out of the toilet, Ghoulies 2 where there's two of them in the toilet, and then Ghoulies 3 where they go to college.
Nice.
Yes.
Honestly, we should do just a whole thing on VHS boxes we remember. Like,
yes, please.
oh god, Phantasm, where he's just holding the
the
orb.
silver ball with the,
Yeah.
the tall thin
I mean,
man.
unfortunately, if we're going to off VH covers, I remember, that means we will at some point have to watch Blair Witch Project 2.
Oh, Book of Shadows. Oh, I love that movie.
All right, back to Critters.
Okay, so finally they get the sheriff on the horn, and Sal is talking to him with people behind her saying all these things are happening. But I got really confused why she was whispering about the shots on the Browns farm. Like, she's being very open and loud with everybody else at that point, but like the shots out on Route 22 was the thing that we don't talk about.
I have two thoughts.
Okay.
One is, I wonder if she thinks this is like a domestic abuse situation where the crazy, insane husband who only drinks black coffee finally killed his family.
I was going to say they thought it was when Brad finally snapped.
Yeah, because they all knew about that troubled kid out the Brown farm. He's not going to make it.
They show up to the barn, the whole family's dead, and it's just the mom shoving mashed potatoes in their mouths. Who's eating dinner now, baby? Who's eating dinner now?
Nom, nom, nom. There are a lot of dark films right under the surface of this movie.
Yeah, thank God the critters showed up, because...
The alternative plan is this woman works in a small town. She knows if they hear about a possible disturbance, they're going to form the mob from Beauty and the Beast to just grab a bunch of torches and march down the route to the old Brown farm. What actually I found most interesting about this dispatch scene is the people are describing what happened at the bowling alley, and multiple people watched this alien transform from one person they know, the preacher, into another person they know, Charlie. And instead of explaining that, they go, oh, it was the preacher and Charlie and an unknown person / the most famous rock star in the world.
Fuck me, it's Johnny Steele.
Yeah, fuck me, it's the Rum Tum Tugger. The Rum Tum Tugger showed up and shot up your bar, and you didn't mention that one of the guys transformed from one person to another. It's like, I don't know who this guy was, but he was a curious cat. That's all I could say.
Yes. So we cut back to the farm, and Danny is like, okay, I'm going to run and go get help. The dad's a little, not really into it at that moment. Oh, prior to this, the mom gets shot in the neck with one of the poison darts that we find out just like really paralyzes you or makes you really sleepy, so you can't go anywhere.
For like 5 seconds.
Like, yeah, as soon as it's out of your neck, you're good, But so Danny jumps out the window and is running to go get his bike. And did anybody else just get upset about the bully critter that looks at him and just knocks the bike over like, I got your fucking bike, kid?
I know, because I loved it later when there was like the cat critter that was just like knocking shit off a shelf. It's just like, fuck these books, fuck this plant, fuck everything. Like, that was the moment where I was like, okay, I understand that this script was written before Gremlins had come out, but like that sequence of them trashing the room, I was like, oh, they watched Gremlins and like, we need some more of that.
Oh, I did like when it's chasing Danny and he locks it into the chicken coop, because like he's looking at the chicken coop through a hole in the barn, and all I had in my head was just that scene from Silence of the Lambs where it's like, tell me about the lambs, Clarice. Tell me about the chickens, Danny. What about the chickens?
I fed them. They were my chickens, and I fed them to a critter.
Tell me, Clarice, have the critters stopped rolling?
The chickens.
No,
were
they made
screaming.
3 sequels. Holy shit, Clarice. We need to see those.
Just like the Hannibal movies, they made 5 million sequels. And that World War II prequel. Remember that? Nobody does.
I saw that prequel in theaters, and the fire alarm went off in the climax, and they had to stop the film.
So what do you say? Future episode?
100%.
It's possible. That's called a tease in the biz. That's called a tease. Hannibal Rising.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But he eventually runs away.
He runs
riding
away.
his bike.
And then he ends up almost getting hit by, fuck me, it's Johnny Steele again, and Charlie. And I love this bit.
And yeah, first off, this sociopath kid is finally the first person to realize, like, oh wait, even though you look like them, you're not the person I know. Like, you're clearly just taking on this form.
The first person in this Kansas town with a sense of object permanence.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you're not acting like Charlie. I know you're not Charlie. Whatever, you're here to kill critters? That's great. Also, this scene is where we find out the most upsetting development of the film, audience. I regret to inform you. The fact that they called them Krites. You're like, okay, they're called Krites. I get it. They're going to like misinterpret that, and that's how we're going to get to Critter for the name. Oh no, my friend. he independently, the kid calls them critters because he's a folksy country boy. So they're called Krites for absolutely no fucking reason.
It's true.
Like, why call them like you call them Krites so that way they can get bastardized into critter.
But I like that that Danny has the ability, like you mentioned before, to be like, oh, you're clearly not Charlie, and you're definitely not, fuck me, it's Johnny Steele. But he can't look at him and be like, who the fuck are the Krites? Like, really, man?
You mean Christ? Like,
yes.
Oh, you look for Christ? Christ inside all of us. Oh God, they're tearing into me again. Yeah, but that just was really upsetting. That the fact that they bothered to name them Krites, they spent a lot of time making sure they're called Krites, and then Critter's name is independent of that fact.
Yes.
I think this was a case where they had like 3 drafts of the screenplay, and like 3 different like secretaries were taking them around the studio, and they all bumped into each other in the hallway, and all the pages got mixed up.
Oh, the big meeting's in 5 minutes. We gotta get this together.
So we end up back at the farm at this point with everybody. The bounty hunters are about to go in and take care of business. The whole family's outside, and then Brad hears Chewie, and he goes inside to save the cat, which I get. You know,
For a little Sith cat moment.
We also get the erect laser gun at this point. Did anyone catch that?
Yes.
Johnny Steele's giant dick laser gun. Yeah, so at this point, they basically clear house.
However, once again, this is another one where they're shitty like, you're fighting small rolling creatures, right? So what do you do with your big cannons? You shoot them straight forward at hip height.
Yep. We don't aim.
They keep shooting like the middle of walls, like a good 3 feet above where the critters are. I'm like, bro, down, bro.
You aim at any point. Yeah, so they clear house. One of the giant critter steals April, takes her out into a field. Brad goes off after her to chase her. The bounty hunters are getting ready to chase after them. Their car won't start, and then we get this just palatable, just beautiful Emmett Walsh turns on his car, slow head turn with the cockeyed grin, like, oh, please don't hurt me and take my car. Like,
yeah, but instead they had the world's most awkward road trip, and they all just like get together.
I love it. So, okay, you guys mentioned earlier that the kid was making bombs in his room. I completely missed this on both of my viewings. I guess I just got distracted by just the pure...
The one thing they set up and pay off, you dumbass.
Twice. I watched this movie twice in 2 days, and last night my notes, I said, when did the kid get literal dynamite?
I mean, that is a question the movie never really addresses.
Yeah, so he goes in, he is trying to save April, he wakes her up. As he's trying to escape, he tries to light the firework, the dynamite, it won't light. Charlie shows up at this point, in case you forgot Charlie was in this movie. And as we mentioned at the beginning, when we're introduced to Charlie, he is a baseball pitching star in the town. And magically, thank God, he has the equipment to make a Molotov cocktail and lights this thing up, throws it into the UFO, and then we wait for the UFO to go over the house, and it explodes over the house, where I wrote down the entire house must be made of dynamite.
Well, no, because they shoot it, like, just spitefully shoot the house.
Yeah, and they lie. It was one of my favorite moments. They like, all right, we gotta get out of here. Except that they first fly to the house, shoot with a big laser, and then cut like 3 critters like laughing their asses off, like, ha ha ha, fuck those guys, right? And then they see the dynamite's caught on fire, and one of them goes, uh-oh.
So yeah, it blows up and then crashes down into the remainder of the smoldering house, like just to make sure the house is double dead.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I feel like they could have set up the like baseball throw, the Molotov cocktail a little more. Like, could have had a moment where like, oh, the pressure's really on. Like,
yeah,
these are things that you should have set up in Act 1 better to then pay off.
Well, okay, so I made that note
like
too.
He's trying to throw, like, instead of a slingshot, he's trying to throw a rock to break the car window, and instead hits April.
Yeah, it's like, fuck this city slicker, I'm gonna break its window. Oh no, I hit April. Oh, if I get caught hitting a miner again, I'm going to jail for a long time. You gotta take the rap for me, kid. Brad, you gotta take the fall.
Brad, you gotta save old Charlie once again.
Okay, Charlie, but in a few weeks, you're gonna hear some crazy news stories about some government buildings, and I'm gonna need you to do a favor for me.
Yeah, so we find out that Charlie is gonna go into space with the bounty hunters because he's a good mechanic, is what he tells them.
They give the kid a device.
Yes, Johnny Steele gives him a reverse button. We'll find that out here in a minute.
It's also a device to call them, right? If they need.
Yeah, because he's like, he hands it, says, "Call me."
Because and that does come into play in Critters 2. Yeah, Chewie's safe, which is great. Thank God for the cat. So Brad presses the reverse button. The house gets put back together. But the cat gets sucked away for a moment. And again, this cat is so unhappy to be in this fucking movie. And then he ends up somehow in the mailbox. And they literally put the cat in the mailbox.
I would have liked an alternate version where they don't know where the cat is. They go inside and it's just like Han Solo in carbonite, just cat in the wall.
Or like cat in the couch or something. They need to like cut him out. Like he's just like inside of a cushion. It's like, wah!
Yeah, so then of course we do get a sequel set up. The camera kind of rolls over to the chicken coop.
Which is the one time where I was like, oh, I don't like, most of the camera work was innocuous, but this one they did this like handheld, like you couldn't get a track, like this handheld tracking shot that's like shaking all over the place.
Yeah, because it makes it feel like the earlier POV critter shot. I'm like, oh, there's still one running around, and then we just see the eggs. Which, fun IMDb trivia, you find out that the eggs have a 2-year gestation process, because the next movie doesn't come out until 88, and it is addressed that it's been a 2-year difference. So, but it's also weird because it's like, did we not go out to the chicken coop for 2 years? Like, what?
Well, that's the kids' chores, and they're real dumb about the animals. They haven't learned from their father, so it's like, I guess those are weird-looking chicken eggs. It's fine. Alternatively, Brad fed all the chickens to the critter. What if it's too painful for them to go to the chicken coop? Like, we can't. All of our chickens were sacrificed by our son. We can't go out there. It's too painful.
I was waiting for the mom to make breakfast the next morning, and she's cracking open critter eggs. Like, Mom, nobody eats your breakfast. Stop making all this food.
Who wants bacon?
Oh my God. So Scott Grimes, who plays Brad, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not. When he grows up, he actually ends up being Gordon on Seth MacFarlane's The Orville TV show. He's one of my favorite characters on that. So it's just, I don't know. There's just so much fun with this fucking movie. I love it so much. I did think it was a missed opportunity because they don't play Power of the Night over the credits.
I was shocked. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna skip the credits, but I'm at least wait for like the lyrics to kick in on Power of the Night. And then like for the 12 times they played it in the film, they didn't play it for the credits.
Right.
I don't understand.
Set up, no payoff.
I guess I should have learned.
But so this is also interesting. There was there's been a little controversy in the world of Critters since it's coming about. So every time that the director of the film and the writers of the film have ever been interviewed, people ask them like, hey, were you inspired by Gremlins? And they absolutely refuse to answer the question. And their response is always, no, Gremlins came after us. Stop asking this question, even though Gremlins didn't come after. So it's very interesting that people are like fighting about this.
Well, the one I read is that the original screenplay was written like before Gremlins had come out, but then this didn't go into production. Like I said, I'm not saying the script is stolen from Gremlins, but I feel like especially the like E.T. tearing sequence, like that is just they watched the Gremlins like, okay, let's have like 5 minutes of that in the movie.
See, like I feel like there's an alternative where it's the Chiodos brothers really liked Gremlins when they put the production together and like, oh, we'll give them personalities that are kind of destructive and chaotic, you know, but there are videos of people them asking about the Gremlins, and the director is just shooting literal daggers into the interview questionnaire. Like, don't fucking ask me about Gremlins ever again. I'm done.
Oh, the thing of that, would you say that Critters 2 is the Gremlins 2 of this franchise?
100%.
Awesome.
It's so much better.
Then I'm definitely on board because don't get me wrong, I love Gremlins. Gremlins is like a classic, but man, maybe it's just because I was a kid when it came out, but like Gremlins 2, I am all about. Yeah, give me weird, horny lady gremlin. Give me a talk show host. Give me spider gremlin. Give me all the gremlins.
Give me the weird gremlin that has a British accent that can speak English.
Yeah, give me the electricity gremlin.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
It would still be in subtitles, but it just says like, we want what you want. Civilization.
Yes. everybody who liked this movie, I feel like would be my friends because all the stuff they reviewed was stuff that I either owned or would buy. All the reviews were pretty generic, but I will tell you, I did find one little nugget of joy. And it actually
were there other buys, fertilizer and copper wiring
and like slow burn fuse and wax ends,
PDF of unnamed titled book. No,
cardboard tubing, Brad's confession.
No, but there is something interesting here. So there was one woman. Her name is June. June gave this movie 5 stars, and her review said, "My granddaughter loves this movie." Yeah, we're sensing a similar theme from last week. Grandmothers.
Also, this granddaughter seems cool as shit, because in my head, she's like a 6-year-old girl whose favorite film is Critters.
Right. But the only other 5-star thing that she rated and reviewed that I thought was poignant and a little scary was a a mace gun. So like a gun that you put a silly string looking cannon that's just mace. She gave it 5 out of 5 stars, calling it peace of mind for $40. This is the 5th or even 6th mace gun we have purchased. They are truly amazing. I love animals of all kind, but local raccoons attack and maim our pets. One was attacking our dog and 20 feet away or so we had to use the mace on it, fired super strongly, sent the would-be attacker off the porch or running. Hated to do it, but these things put that out of our animals into the hospital every so often. And hopefully not our granddaughter next time. Humane or not, this is a non-lethal force, and it diffused the situation and got rid of our porch-dwelling, razor-sharp clawed attackers.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Is this the prequel to 30 to 50 Feral Hogs?
This is the mace equivalent of the Indoraptor in Jurassic World, where they're like, hey, we have this thing that basically is, for all intents and purposes, a gun, but it's instead of just doing the simple thing, we're gonna add 20 unnecessary steps.
Also, if it's attacking your dog, didn't you then just mace your dog as well?
Right. Right. But I'm sitting here going like, okay, so we've got a grandmother who loves the movie Critters for her granddaughter. That's fine. But grandma's also shooting raccoons off the back porch with mace for fun, I think.
Does she think the raccoons are critters?
Yep. At least this week, Grandma's not reviewing erotic fan fiction about
Although that was a fun trip. That was a fun trip to find out what all those curvy girls were up to.
Them curvy girls and their werebears lovers and the dragons that lay eggs in them.
And they don't like each other, but they're just so drawn to each other, they're gonna have to have sex.
Oh man! All right, let's go around the horn. Did we like this? Would we recommend it, Brian?
Yeah, this is I would say it's a one man's treasure. Like it's not a great, amazing movie. It's very enjoyable. I don't know if I plan to watch it again anytime soon. It's kind of it's a one and done, but it is a very enjoyable one and done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially if I'm gonna trust Chris on this one, that the Critters franchise from here goes like wackier and wackier and really like kicks it up a notch. So thinking that, I think definitely watch this to get yourself into the franchise. And if you have any interest in sort of 80s comedy horrors, this is definitely a good example. This is one of the good ones. So it's not going to be for everyone, but if that is your kind of thing, go ahead and watch it. And don't worry if your mind wanders in the first half hour, because nothing comes back.
It's true. I think this movie is absolutely delightful. It's a lot of fun. Of course, I picked the movie, so I am very biased about this. I am going to make the boys at some point watch Critters 2 and 3. We probably won't go past 3, because I'll be honest with you, the 4th and 5th one are not... They're not even fun. They're just schlocky for the sake of schlock.
Critters 4, The Hunt for the Blood Orchid.
Yes, and unfortunately, John Rhys Davies doesn't show up in any of them, which makes me so sad. I would say watch it. It is a one and done, but the other two in the franchise they stick out in my memory way more. But I felt like we needed to launch off with the first one in the film, in the series.
For sure.
Yeah, so I would say watch it, or, just listen to this episode. I think you'll catch everything you needed to, or just YouTube,
You could
clips
probably
from
just
the
get
first
like
one.
a sweet montage of the like actual critter sequences.
Yeah.
If nothing else, try to find the one where he like destroys the ET, because that like is the fun action that you want.
Who are you? Fuck. Yeah, and again, like, if you haven't watched the movie, do yourself a favor, just go to YouTube and watch the Power of the Night music video, which is the actual music video that they shot for the film. It's full length and it's awesome. So that was my pick this week. I stand by it. I think I'm pulling back into the making good decisions with the films. I'm not going to give myself full credit because it's only 1 out of 3 so far, so we'll see what happens. Brandon, you're going to be picking our next feature, and what are we doing?
Well, I'm going to close out our spooky month with another sort of horror feature.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with something I remember somewhat fondly from my childhood, and that is the film Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes!
From 1991. It is like it's.
Oh.
I remember loving a lot of the Ernest films when I was a kid. This one I feel like was one of the later entries for me, but I'm excited to watch it now with fresh eyes, and also to force you gentlemen to watch it as well.
Oh, there's so much milk in that movie. It's uncomfortable.
For anyone unfamiliar, the plot synopsis here is Ernest accidentally unleashes an ugly troll that plots to transform children into wooden dolls in the town of Briarville, Missouri.
God, I hate when that happens.
It's tale as old as time.
All right, that was the episode for Critters. This is the Trashwatch podcast with Chris, Brian, and Brandon. Thanks for joining us yet again. If you have a suggestion for a film that you'd like us to watch and talk about, you could drop that in our email at trashwatchpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook. Just search for the podcast that is Trashwatch Podcast. And you can also follow us on Twitter by looking at hashtag Trashwatch Podcast. That'll work. That's fine. Use what you want. They've got weapons now.
Fuck!